Feel it melt away where time cannot find me at all. Just a breath away, nothing here but heaven, nowhere but love to fall as I go within. Quiet peace offers something sacred. There's a sweetness that waits, holiest embrace that reminds me I'm always home as I go within. Quiet peace offers something sacred. There's a sweetness that waits, holiest embrace that reminds me I'm always home. It's here that I am always home.
Beautiful. Thank you. Always beautiful. Welcome. Good to see you this evening. I still can't get used to it being light. It just feels like we're here at the wrong time, but we know it's the right time. Welcome, welcome. I'm Reverend Debbie McDonnell. It's a joy to have you here tonight. Our Wednesday night Going Within service. Our Going Within service is a time for you to just pause midweek, to come and breathe. Let go of anything that happened this week, anything that you just need to surrender to the divine. Just allow yourself to be fully present right here and right now and soak in all the good that you can. To start us off, we have practitioner Brian Atkins.
Can I use your mic?
I think it's in. I think it can.
It's on now.
It's on. Good evening. I'm Brian Atkins, and I have been a practitioner here at Seaside for over 12 years. And I will be doing your reading this evening. But first, I invite you to join me in turning within in prayer. And I know that God is all there is. God is that all-loving, all-caring source of divinity and inspiration that permeates everything and everyone. God is in the beauty and the solitude of the mountaintop. And God is in the roar and the thunder of the ocean wave. And God is right here, right this very moment, expressing itself through each and every one of us here at Seaside tonight. And I know that we are all one with God. We are one with the source of love and caring and compassion, the source of wisdom and knowledge. And it's because of this that we are heir to all the wealth and all the riches of the universe. Closer to us than our breath, that is where God is. And I stake my claim for this service tonight in knowing that each and every one of us here this evening receives exactly that which we are here for. As the words flow forth from Reverend Debbie McDonnell's lips, each of us is touched. Each of us receives a shift and new inspiration. And we in turn take that message out into the world and pass it on to others. and consciousness expands throughout the world. And so I simply turn this time over to the hands of God and know that it is perfect. And so it is. And now I would like to invite those of you who have not lit a candle to come forward and light a candle. And then Arya will lead us into meditation and song.
I am as God created me. I am a light in this world. I am as God created me. I am, I am, I am. I am as God created me. I am a light in this world. I am as God created me. I am, I am, I am. I am as God created me. I am a light in this world. I am as God created me. I am, I am, I am. I am as God created me. I am a light in this world. I am as God created me. I am, I am, I am. I am as God created me. I am a light in this world. I am as God created me. I am, I am, I am. I am
as God created me.
I
I
am.
am a light in this world.
I
I
am.
am as God created me. I am, I am, I am.
your peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is despair, hope. Where there is darkness, light. Where there is sadness, joy. O divine Master, grant that I may not so much seek to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love. For it's in giving that we receive, and it's in pardon that we are pardoned, and it's in dying that we are born to eternal life. O divine Master, grant that I may not so much seek to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love. For it's in giving that we receive, and it's in pardon that we are pardoned, and it's in dying that we are born to eternal life. Amen.
Thank you, Jim and Arya, for your beautiful music. So our message this evening is consciousness creates our reality. Or in layman's term, our experience in life will be as a direct result of our thoughts and our beliefs. But before I get into the readings, I want to share with you a little bit of an experience in my life that kind of alludes to that concept and also illustrates my introduction to new thought. So in my 20s, spirituality was about the furthest thing from my mind. I was pouring all my energy into my career, and I was doing everything I could to move forward in my career. And so I began reading books by people who were successful in my career, as well as motivational speakers. And I was listening to audio tapes, and I was beginning to apply some of these concepts to my work. And I gradually found out that these things actually worked, and that got me excited. And before I knew it, I turned into a self-help junkie. Fast forward about 15 years, and I'm now somewhat successful in my career, and it still feels this empty feeling. And I decide, okay, maybe it's time to go out and check out this spirituality thing. And I decided I would try New Thought, and I went to what was at the time Church of Today, and was led by Wendy Craig Purcell, and it's now Unity Center. And when I went in and I sat down and I was listening to her, and I was shocked because everything that was coming out of her mouth was all the stuff I'd been studying and reading about with all these tapes and books. it was like, oh my gosh, she's not standing there telling me what things I can do and what things I can't. She's giving me these tools to help me with my life. And I thought, this is awesome. And through these studies, what I have discovered over time is that whether you're a scientist or whether you're a spiritualist or whether you're a business person, they all have their own different thought patterns, but they're all seem to think along the same pattern on one concept. And I think that the Nobel Prize winner, Albert Schweitzer, put it best when asked the question, why is it that some men fail to succeed? And he paused and he thought for a minute. He said, some men simply don't think. And that's it. Those that are successful are effective at thinking, and those that aren't successful, perhaps not so good. And in the process of creating my readings tonight, or my quotes, I chose to choose some from the business world and some from the spiritual world to go ahead and illustrate how well they parallel each other. And my first one comes from my favorite motivational speaker, who's no longer with us, Earl Nightingale. He says, for 20 years, I looked for the key that would determine what would happen to a human being. Was there a key that would determine a person's success if only he knew how to use it? Well, there is such a key, and I found it. Here is the key to success and the key to failure. We become what we think about. And my next quote is from probably my second most favorite motivational speaker, a man that lives right here in Solana Beach, Brian Tracy, who today is a coach for many of the top CEOs of corporations around the world. But he had a rough beginning. And he says, at an early age, I struggled. I flunked out of school. I was a part of the class that made the upper part possible. Then I started working at manual jobs. I dug ditches, which is where you start at the ground floor and dig down. Later, I began to ask, why is it that some men succeed while others fail? And what I discovered was, you become what you think about most of the time. He also said, if you think education is expensive, you should try ignorance. Now from the spiritual realm. Mark 9:23. All things are possible to him that believeth. And the famous carpenter from Galilee, Jesus, said, it is done unto you as you believe. And then finally, Henry David Thoreau, who spent his time on Walden Pond, said, a man is what he thinks about all day long. And he's probably most famous for, if one advances confidently in the direction of his dreams and endeavors to live the life which he has imagined, he will meet with a success unexpected in common hours. I'd like to go ahead and mention real quickly that at the end of the evening, both Rebecca and I will be outside of that door at the chapel available for prayer. So please feel free to come by and get prayer. And with that, I would like to turn the lectern over to Reverend Debbie McDonnell.
Thank you. Great quotes. Like that. Good ones. Isn't it interesting? We find the truth everywhere. The truth is the truth is the truth. Well, it's good to be here. We are continuing along with our year-long theme that we're following with Home Office out of Golden, Colorado. Over 100 of our centers, I think about 140 of us are doing this theme throughout the year. And this month, the theme is a global vision, a world that works for everyone. And this month, our theme is kinship with all of life. And specifically tonight, we're going to be talking about this next one. Melanie, you want to give us the next one? We believe that the manifest universe is the body of God. We believe that the manifest universe is the body of God. We see a world in which we live and grow as one global family that respects and honors the interconnectedness of life. we see a world in which kinship with all of life prospers. So tonight we're going to talk about the manifest body of God. And what is that? First of all, I'm going to tell you a little story about a wise sage that lived a long time ago in a small village far, far from anything else. And this wise sage was visited often. People would come to the community, they would come to the village, and they would ask him how it is that he got to be so wise, and who were his teachers, and where did he study. And one day, he finally answered them, and he said, I've had many teachers. I continue to study. I continue to study always, and I've had many teachers all of my life. And my classrooms have been the forests and the gardens around my village. And with that, a wide smile broke across his face, and he looked up at the forested mountaintop in front of him. And he said, the very first teacher that I had was the rock. The rock taught me how to sit and be still. And once I had mastered that, I saw the world in a whole new way. And then I saw the giant oak. And the oak taught me that just one person could make a difference. I watched it as it warmed people in the winter, and as it gave shade to people in the summer, and how all the animals came and would find shelter and food within its branches and within its trunk. And from that day forward, I learned how to live for others. Nature has so many lessons for us. We talked about that 2 weeks ago. We talked about the kinship of all of life and how we're all one, and how we get so many of our lessons from nature, how we can see in nature just exactly how things are if we don't interrupt it or if we don't get in the way of it. And one of the things about the body, the manifest body of God, is that everything that we see is the body of God. Today I was sitting in my yard and I was meditating and contemplating this morning and having my coffee and getting ready to work on the talk today, and it was if all of nature was screaming, look at me, look at me, look at me. The birds got louder and louder. The flowers were in full bloom. It was absolutely beautiful. And anywhere I looked, I just knew that I was in the body of God, that everything around me was God. It was so beautiful, and springtime is such a wonderful time to see all of that happening. Springtime is a time when we absolutely get to see this manifestation in all of its glory. The quote that I like, one of the ones that I like, comes from Emerson, and Emerson is one of the first people that Ernest Holmes read, Ralph Waldo Emerson, and he says that nature is the art of God. And I just love that. I love nature, and I love beauty, two of the things that are the high values for me. And so I have no trouble believing that the manifest universe is the body of God. I mean, do you? Do you have a hard time when you look at nature, when you see all the beauty that's out there, believing that this is God made manifest? Spirit, source, whatever we want to call it, creative intelligence. Again, a couple weeks ago, I mentioned the Native Americans, because I think the Native Americans really had this concept. They understood that everything was sacred, absolutely everything. And here's a quote. When a man does a piece of work which is admired by all, we say that it is wonderful. But when we see the changes of day and night, the sun, the moon, and the stars in the sky, and the changing seasons upon the earth, with their ripening fruits, anyone must realize that it is the work of someone more powerful than man. That's Chief Standing Bear. No, and I think the Native Americans really just understood. They just really understood that the eagle, the mountain lion, the bear, the trees, the plants, I mean, they gave thanks for it all, for the tobacco. They gave the giveaway where they would give and they would receive, and they practiced that. They practiced the sacrednesses of all of life. They believed that the world was alive, that it was a real thing, that it was breathing. Regard heaven as your father, earth as your mother, and all things as your brothers and sisters. Native American proverb. All plants are our brothers and sisters. They talk to us, and if we listen, we can hear them. the Arapaho Indians. I like this one. I think this is beautiful. Walk lightly in the spring. Mother Earth is pregnant. Kiowa. That's the Kiowa Indians. So beautiful. I have some images I want to show you to just think about this as the manifest body of God. You want to see those? Show those to us, Melanie? We have the rose. I mean, how can we not look at a rose and see its beauty? And if we think of that as being the body of God, the body of God. Let's see the next one, Melanie. The dolphins. How often do we get to go down to the beach here and you see the dolphins jumping and knowing God made manifest the dolphins, the oceans, the sun, all of it. See the next one. France and the sunflowers. If you've ever seen a sunflower field in Europe, it's just magnificent. Beautiful, gorgeous. God just blossoming. Hi, look at me. Here I am. Look how beautiful I am. The next one. So beautiful. The colors. Amazing. Nature is the art of God, truly. It truly is. And I think I have one more. The child. The child just sitting in the flower field. Do you ever remember doing that as a child? Where you'd watch the little caterpillar and you'd look at all the petals and the leaves and you just knew all the petals in the flower and you looked at the leaves and you knew all these little things that we just walk by so quickly now. I read a story today about a woman who, this gentleman wrote a book on nature and he observed his neighbor woman walking very quickly with her 6-year-old daughter, hurrying, and he thought as he looked at his window, why are they walking so fast? Why aren't they stopping and noticing everything? And the woman was saying, hurry up. And then on Saturday, he looked out his window and he saw the very same woman with her daughter just walking slow and looking at everything and picking up the flowers. And he had a conversation with her and he said, it's so great to see you out there just taking your time, looking at everything. I saw you the other day and you were going so quickly, I wondered why. And she said, well, my daughter's at an age that she doesn't really understand time. And so we have what we call our time walks. And she was late for school and we had to get going, and she knows that we're on a time walk, we go. But then on Saturday, we do our being walk, where I take her out and we spend all the time we want just being in nature, looking, stopping to smell the roses, right? Do we stop to smell the roses? Do you take the time to slow down, to look? I have to purposely do it. I don't do it automatically. I have to remind myself to slow down, to just be, to move from that human doing to the human being, to just stay, to stop, to pause. So in the Science of Mind textbook, chapter 5 is titled Body. So Ernest Holmes talks to us about the body. And in Science of Mind, we talk about the triune nature of God. And so you learn about the Trinity, or you may have in your childhood religion, the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. Well, in Science of Mind, we have the triune nature of God, which we talk about as being spirit, soul, and body. So body is the second part of the Trinity in the Science of Mind. And remember we talked before about the creative process and the Science of Mind symbol. And I was thinking today I need to get a really good slide of that, so every time we talk about this I can put it up there. But most of you know it. It's the big circle with the V in it. And at the top part is spirit, is source, is God. The middle part is soul, which is a different interpretation than what we normally think of as soul, or the law, or the soil. And the bottom part is the body, the manifestation. It's anything that has come forward. It's the effect. The body is always the effect. It's never the cause. So our body doesn't cause us to do anything. Our body is the effect of our thoughts that Brian was talking about. Anything in the manifest world is the effect of a thought. The plants, the inventions, the things that we see made manifest are effects. And that is what we're calling the body. That's what we're calling the body of God. So anything that we see, anything visible or invisible, truly is the body of God. And I love that idea. If I think of the body of God as being like the galaxy, You know, on Earth is maybe the belly, and another planet's the head and the arms. I don't know the order of the planets. But, if you just think about that entire thing being the body of God, and here we are, little bits of the body of God. There is a quote that I read today that I hadn't heard of Ernest before. And, a lot of times we talk about the ocean is God and we are the wave, or the sun is God and we are the ray. So we are all that God is, but we are not. God is all that we are, but we are not all God is. God is much bigger than we are, but everything that we are is God. And Ernest had this great quote where he used the comparison of an ice cube. An ice cube is all that the water is, but all the water is in an ice cube. And that really, I don't know, that kind of shifted for me. I could say, okay, I'm an ice cube, you're an ice cube, you're an ice cube. We're all ice cubes. We're all made up of this water, but we're not all the water there is. But we certainly have all the components of the water in our ice cube. And that's what we're talking about as being the body, all those things that are manifest, all those things that are kind of solid, those things that are matter. Dr. Christian's new book, and lots of you are in his class, and so the book is only available in the class, because it hasn't come out for publication yet, and hopefully it will soon. But he has a little part in here that I think is pretty great. It says, if my body isn't who I am, then what is it? Have you ever flown from the mountains to the tropics only to get off the plane and be shocked by how different the humid air feels to you? How about being flown from one culture to another and stepping off the plane to notice things aren't at all what you've always known as common? Who animates all these diverse expressions? It's necessary to put on a wetsuit or air tank to dive the sea, or don a spacesuit in order to compensate for the differences in another environment. Your consciousness needs the appropriate suit to function in this physical dimension of awareness. The irony is, while you need something to match the vibration of this world to walk in it, the mystical dissolves the boundaries of the form you inhabit. So this earth suit, I think Dr. Christian has called it that before, we put on this earth suit, this body that we wear while we're here. But it's not the sum of who we are. It is the body. It's the body. Body is a concrete manifestation existing in time and space for the purpose of furnishing a vehicle through which life may express itself. Now that's Ernest. So either Christian copied Ernest or Ernest copied Christian. But it's the same idea. It's the same idea, that the body is a concrete manifestation existing in time and space for the purpose of furnishing a vehicle through which life may express itself. So we don these bodies that our consciousness may exist in this time and space, and when we move on to the next place, we leave this body and we go into whatever it is that the next place indicates. In the back of our Science of Mind textbook, Ernest has a definition of body, which I think is worth looking at, because it has a couple subtleties that we haven't talked about yet. The outward form, the entire manifestation of spirit, both visible and invisible, that's his definition of body, is the body of God. Within this one body of God is included all lesser bodies. And that's the part I want to talk about. This one body, coupled with the intelligence running through it, is called the Son, or the second person of the Trinity. This, of course, includes man, both visible and invisible. It also includes every graduation of consciousness, from the simple to the complex, from a cell to an archangel. It is the entire manifestation of spirit on any and all planes. So the body. We believe that the body is the manifest universe of God, or that the manifest universe, let me get that right. We believe that the manifest universe is the body of God. So everything that we see is an expression of the divine, kinship with all life. And the last point I want to make it is that through the physical universe that God sees and knows itself. I mean, that's the question. What is the purpose of why are we here? Why do we have these bodies? Why are we here as these human beings? Well, Spirit expresses through us. It is the way that Spirit is able to operate in this world through us. We're the hands of God, the feet of God, the voice of God, the eyes of God. We are God made manifest here in this time, in this place. Spirit needs us. We need Spirit. We are out here doing Spirit's work. This means that all creation, all life, and all beings, whether plant, animal, or human, are part of the whole body of God. Every part of creation is a vehicle for the Infinite One to experience itself. No life or being is left out. So Spirit needs every one of us to experience itself. Dr. Petra Wells, who's the one that wrote this week's talk, she talks about imagine if there was only a rose. If there was no other flower in the world except a rose. That was the only way that God could know itself as a flower was through a rose. No. We have wisteria, we have irises, we have pansies, we have daisies, we have a multitude of ways that God experiences itself as a flower. So imagine then, now multiply that by all the types of plants that we have. And then all the types of animals, all the types of humans, all the planets, all the stars, all the minerals. Everything in the manifest universe is the ways that God knows itself. All the various ways that God can express. As you, as me, as your children, as your mother, as your father, as your pets. As the park, as the tree, as the grass. All God, all source. There's a gentleman named Dwayne Ilgen. I think I'm saying that right. Ilgen, maybe. He's written a book titled The Living Universe, in which he reintroduces a concept which I think to us is probably more familiar, but for the scientific world, it's a reintroduction of a theory that Plato stated 2,000 years ago. And the whole idea that the universe is alive, it's an alive organism. It's a system in which it creates itself, it rebirths itself, it regenerates itself like the cells of our body. For a long time, science has looked at the universe as being dead, space, matter. And this whole idea that our cosmos is not a fragmented and lifeless machine, but instead a unified and living organism. Plato described the universe as one whole of wholes and a single living creature which encompasses all the living creatures that are within it. So the whole world is alive. This whole idea, and I think for us in Science of Mind, it's probably a little more palpable, that it is alive, that it is a world that is breathing. It is source, it is God, it is Spirit. You know, there could be a whole other talk on the universe being alive or not. But I just wanted to introduce that thought that we do live in a world that is not static, a world that's moving, regenerating, rebirthing, regrowing. You know, with this idea of this week being Earth Day on Friday. And for you women, Callie's having a fire circle in the garden on Friday for Earth Day, so I invite you to be part of that. But I know Christian gave his talk on Sunday, Earth Day talk, his annual Earth Day talk. You know, but I want to remember that the earth can heal itself. And we can cooperate in that. We can cooperate in being this part of this body of the divine. I'm not even going to try to say it. An Indian yogi and philosopher stated that creation is for the delight of God. So we are for the delight of God. The birds, the trees, the flowers, all of it is for the delight of God. You know, are we delighting in creation? You know, are we delighting in the joys of all the sensual pleasures of the world? Taste, touch, smell. In the beauty of nature, are we delighting in that? The love of our pets and all the animals and the care of our body. Are we delighting in that? Spirit's good pleasure to give us the kingdom, what we think we create. All these things that we talked about. Anything that you see in your life had its origination somewhere in your thought. You know, Christian in his book even talks about this body being created through our grandparents, and that cellular DNA goes on to our parents and then goes on to us. So perhaps it didn't originate the thought with us, but it's somewhere in our genetic makeup. We talk about group consciousness, race consciousness, thoughts that we carry on. So we can change anything that's happening in our life that we don't want happening by simply changing our thinking. We can delight in all that nature has for us, all that Source has for us, all that Spirit has for us on a daily basis. So I invite you this week to look for places to see God, to recognize the flower and the hummingbirds and all that's happening right now in the world as a beautiful body of the divine. And with that, I'd like to welcome back Steve, who's taking a sip of his water, and Aria.
You think you own whatever land you land on. The earth is just a dead thing you can claim. But I know every rock and tree and creature has a life, has a spirit, has a name. You think the only people who are people are the people who look and think like you. But if you walk the footsteps of a stranger, you'll learn things you never knew you never knew. Have you ever heard the wolf cry to the blue corn moon, or asked the grinning bobcat why he grinned? Can you sing with all the voices of the mountain? Can you paint with all the colors of the wind? Can you paint with all the colors of the wind? Come run the hidden pine trails of the forest. Come taste the sun-sweet berries of the earth. Come roll in all the riches all around you, and for once never wonder what they're worth. The rainstorm and the river are my brothers. The heron and the otter are my friends, and we are all connected to each other in a circle, in a hoop that never ends. How high does the sycamore grow? If you cut it down, well, you'll never know. And you'll never hear the wolf cry to the blue corn moon, for whether we are white or copper skinned, we need to sing with all the voices of the mountain, need to paint with all the colors of the wind. You can own the earth, and still all you'll own is earth until you can paint with all the colors of the wind. Thank you. Thank you, Jim.
That oneness of knowing that there's no separation between nature and us. So it's a time of our service for our offering. Let me get mine out here. You know, ask our ushers to come forward. Dennis and Karen, thank you so much for being here. It's the time of our service where we get to practice the law of reciprocity. We get to practice that giveaway as the American Indians did. And just know that as you give, you receive, and that's just the law. It's the way that it works. And certainly it's not the reason to give, but whatever you are able to give certainly is appreciated. It goes to support all the works that we do here at Seaside and to help us to continue to do the works that we do and to keep our Wednesday night service here for all of you. So if you would join together with me in our prosperity prayer. As I give thanks for the good now flowing into my life, I gladly share that good with others. The more I give, the more I receive. I experience a deeper consciousness of peace and security, for I know that I am in the embrace of a warm, loving presence, forever seeking an outlet through me. My cup runneth over. I exist in limitless possibilities. Thank you, Dennis. Thank you, Jim. Always beautiful. I don't have too many announcements tonight. As I mentioned, Callie has the Fire Circle Friday evening, the women's ministry. They'll be in the garden. I think it's 6 o'clock, but you check the program to be sure. And we don't really have any classes starting right now. We have 2 coming up in May. Reverend Lori Mack, who's here next Wednesday evening, has her class. She's doing the Secrets of the Millionaire Mind. She has an amazing story of abundance, Reverend Lori Mack. She was shared with our young adults or our next generation service a couple weeks ago, and so many things I never knew about her, but she is a powerful manifester, so she's going to be teaching a class on that, and we have our art class that's starting up again in May as well. Von Prague is going to be here, James Von Prague. I'm sure you've heard about it. The VIP tickets are sold out, but regular tickets are available, and you can get those online, or you can get them Sunday when you're here. I want to thank everybody. I want to thank Melanie. Welcome back. She was on a long vacation, and she's back. Thank you, Melanie. We're so glad that you're here. Steve, thank you for assisting and always being here. Gregory for the podcast. Thank you for bringing it to the people at home and online. We really appreciate that. I don't know, Reverend Lori Mack, if you were here last week, she's probably told you she's created a Facebook page for Going Within, so you can like our Facebook page, the Going Within Wednesday night service Facebook page. And she puts up every week all of the talks. She puts her talks and my talks up every week, so you can go right there and catch them if you didn't get to, if you want to re-listen to them, or if you have a friend that wants to watch them, so you can go on there and check it out. Thank you, Aria and Jim. We love having you. I'm so blessed to have you as our musicians here on Wednesday night. Thank you to our practitioners. Thank you, Brian, for always being here with us. And thank you to our practitioner intern, Rebecca, who is holding the light. We have 3 beautiful practitioners that are graduating June the 5th. We have 7 ministerial students that we're sending out to the world June the 5th. So graduation 4 o'clock here at Seaside on June the 5th. But now what I'd like to do is I'd like to pray. So if you have anybody in your life, yourself, anybody that you know that you'd like to include in this prayer, please just raise them in consciousness right now and hold them into the vortex of all that's happening. Just turning within. I know that there is only one power and one presence, and it is God. Good, love, joy, creative intelligence, divine right action. By whatever name I call it, I know there is only one source, and it is good. And I know that that power moves in, through, and as all things. I know that I am one with that source. I know that I am one with all that is. And just as I know that this is true for me, I know it's true for each one here. I know that each one is a magnificent, individualized expression of the divine, perfect, whole, and complete right here and right now. I know that each one's life is unfolding in perfect divine order, that Spirit goes before them and makes straight any crooked place, any place that needs healing, any place that needs light, any place that needs a little adjustment is happening now. I know that it is the Father's good pleasure to pour forth the kingdom, that Spirit always says yes to any request. That I know that there's a healing, there's an opening, there's an expansion, that there's a divine abundance that flows in, through, and as each and every individual. I know for anybody that's written a prayer in our prayer request chest that prayer is answered, that each and every individual is given exactly what it is that they need for that next step of their evolution, for that next step of advancement. I am so grateful to know this truth. I am so grateful to speak these words. So that a heart full of gratitude for the knowingness, for the perfection of it all, for the absolute knowing that Spirit is here now and forever. With that I just simply release these words of the divine nature of the law, knowing that it is already complete, it is already done, and so it is.
Love is my decision.
It's up to me
To give of my heart. Love is my decision.
and no one else can tell me to start.
And
Once I decide to change my mind, love will show me how. Love is my decision right here and now. Love is my decision. It's up to me to dance down that road. Love is my decision, and no one else can lighten my load. And once I decide to change my mind, love will show me how. Love is my decision right here and now. My decision right here and now.
Thank you. God bless. Please stay down some
just could make it just so much easier. Right. Yeah. No. Oh, it is fascinating. Like, um, that I would spend every waking moment in my yard if you know. Well, but see now I've created this monster in some aspects that it's only as good as my body, and so if I can't get out there, then like the past couple of days with not being able to like carry water or by moving a plant, I kind of made my back way worse, and so it's just like a